Let's go in the talking room.
John, thanks very much for joining me on the Talking Room. Can you tell me when you first knew that you wanted to make movies?
When I was 8 years old, I saw a movie called The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, a Ray Harryhausen movie, at the Crest Theater on Westwood Boulevard in Los Angeles. And I had complete suspension of disbelief. I loved it. It was fantastic. And I was thrilled and delighted and enchanted. And I went home and I asked my mom, who does that? Who makes the movie? And she said, the director. And so from the time I was 8 years old, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And that was my advantage, because most people don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And I just was driven. And when I was able to work on a movie, I did. I left school. I'm a bad example.
So you left high school?
Yeah, I'm a high school dropout.
In LA, you worked on films?
I became a mail boy at 20th Century Fox. And it was very exciting to be on the lot. And I sought out filmmakers. I did everything I could. And eventually, I got a job through a man named Andrew Marton, Bundy Marton, wonderful director, who said if I got my way to Yugoslavia, maybe I could work on the second unit of a picture called Kelly's Heroes. And so I went to London. My friend Chris Hardman, a kid I knew from school, his father was working for Carl Foreman in London writing a movie, and so I stayed with them for a couple of weeks. And then I made my way to Belgrade, which was behind the Iron Curtain, which really meant something in 1969.
How did you get across the border at that point?
I met a group of Swedish and English hippies, and they taught me how to what's called riding the rails.
You actually did this?
Yeah, that's how I went. I went through behind the Iron Curtain, and I got there about 8 weeks before principal photography. Unluckily for MGM, luckily for me, the production was a total screw up, and I ended up on the first unit, and I was there for 9 months, and I had all the pleasure of working on a huge budget movie and none of the responsibility.
This is my favorite bit. You went from there to Spain to work for Sergio Leone?
Well, I went to Spain to work on movies. There was what was called the spaghetti boom. Gosh, I worked on Once Upon a Time in the West. I worked on so many Italian westerns.
So you told me this, but I've never asked in detail about it. You worked as a stuntman on Once Upon a Time?
I did everything. I've done everything you can do on a movie, but hair.
So you're absorbing all of this in your late teens, and you said you wrote American Werewolf right around then when you were.
I wrote it while I was in Yugoslavia 9 months, and I wrote it there. And the movie I made many years later is exactly the script I wrote. The only difference, I used to go to what were called cartoon cinemas. So when I wrote the film, he goes inside, and they're showing in the script, it was Roadrunner cartoons with all the violence, and they were children in the theater. It was the exact same scenes.
Right.
In 1981, when I finally came back to make the movie, half of those theaters had closed, and the ones that were alive were porno theaters. So that's the only change.
I think of American Werewolf, the idea of the transformation being painful as so radical at that point.
It was then, yeah, not anymore.
Now it's the standard, but that being that radical, and then other things that you did, like bringing Elmer Bernstein in to do the score for Animal House, which no one had done for a comedy before.
Well, it was just a straight score for a. I mean, he treated it dramatically,
right?
Not comedically.
Did you start out with a plan to do things differently than you saw, or did you just start out just writing what you waned to see and then came up with
no? It's just on whatever I felt was right at that moment, but. No, I had no plan.
No overall plan?
No.
Was there trouble that people had understanding the script for American Werewolf?
American Werewolf, yeah. People would read the script and say, either this is too funny to be scary, or this is too scary to be funny. And I would say, well, it's both.
It is totally both.
And they would say, huh? You know, it was too weird. In fact, Werewolf has a lot to answer for, because after American Werewolf was successful, a lot of horror films then felt it had to make jokes. They felt like they had to make jokes. And the reason Werewolf was funny, I wanted to take something ridiculous and try to make it real. So if you take these two young men who are smart, fairly sophisticated, educated guys, well, how do you deal with something that's not real? You laugh at it. I mean, that's what most intelligent people do. And the analogy I gave is you're with a friend and you go to see a movie. And you come out after the movie, it's here in the Mission, and you had a good time, and it's crowded on the streets and stuff, and your friend goes, and you turn and there's a guy, and he's wearing a tuxedo, and he has a purple velour cape, and his hair is, you laughed, and his hair is greased back like this, and he's got white pancake makeup on, and lipstick. And he comes up to you and your friend, and he says, "Good evening. I want to drink your blood." You're laughing. You would laugh in this guy's face.
Totally.
Or you try not to embarrass him.
Right.
Like this. Okay. He grabs you, has fangs, sinks his teeth in your throat, drags you to the ground, rips your throat out, drinking your blood, you die. So you're in pain, you're frightened, you die. But not once in the last, minute and a half of your life do you think, I'm being attacked by the undead, the supernatural. This is a vampire. You think, this guy's crazy, help me, Well, so I want to take that premise. The guy comes up and he is, in fact, Dracula.
Right.
And it's real. How do you sell that? Well, it's funny. So in the movie, the lead character reacts as I think smart people would react. This is not true.
So the other thing that I find totally unbelievable about Animal House, which is
which is 35 years old.
I know. You just had the 35-year screening here.
Yeah.
Is how much you cast like so many people in their first movie roles. So many great actors.
Well, most of the cast were unknowns.
So is there some special sauce between you and Barry Levinson, having cast like most of a generation of actors across between Diner and Animal House? To me, is like
I cast Kevin first.
You did.
I'm 1 degree from Kevin.
But it's like how is it feasible that
movies are? It's like making a souffle. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong. Hitchcock called directing a constant compromise because there are all these things. I mean, only David Lean or Kubrick there are very few filmmakers. I mean, now Spielberg or Zemeckis. There are very few filmmakers or Cameron now, who can wait for the right light.
Right.
Or do it again. You have a finite amount of money and money's time. So you're always solving problems, and no matter how well written or how well photographed or how well acted or how good the effects are, whatever it is, it's this collaborative stew that comes out, and when it works, it's great. And Animal House is one of the times it worked.
I think of you as bridging this gap between old studio movies and modern movies because you started in the late 60s. My question is there a way in which the film business is radically different than it used to be?
Yeah, absolutely. The film business is completely different.
And then is it totally different?
Filmmaking is not different. Okay. Filmmaking hasn't changed in 100 years. Different technology,
right?
But the way you tell a story through the juxtaposition of images.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Griffith and Eisenstein. It's pretty much the same.
Right.
There's an old Hollywood story. By old, I said this story's from the 30s. About a writer, a director, and a producer driving in the Mojave Desert. Do you know this story?
I do. Go ahead. Please don't stop on my account. I love this joke.
But they're driving in the desert, and their car runs out of gas, and they're trapped. And it's 110 degrees. The sun's beating down. They realize no one's going to come. We're going to die out here. So we have to walk. So they start walking, and the sun is beating down on them, and they're just on their last legs. When the writer says, What's that? And the director and the producer look, and the director says, I see it. It's like glinting. There's something behind that rock. The writer says, yeah. And the director runs up the hill and reaches down behind this rock, and he brings out, he said, it's a can of cold and fresh orange juice. And he opens it. He says, let's drink it. And the producer says, wait, I have to piss in it first.
I think that's as good a place to stop as any. John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, CK Dexter Haven! Hey guys, thanks for watching The Talking Room with Adam Savage and John Landis. Make sure to go over to tested.com to check out the full hour-plus long uncut version of the interview. It's really cool, and thanks for the Tested guys for letting us share it with you here. Make sure to click like and subscribe and stay here for more movie news on Cinefix Now.